You wake up and the world is completely silent. Not quiet, silent. No traffic, no voices, no hum of electricity in the walls. You check your phone, no signal. You walk outside, nothing moves. No planes overhead, no distant sirens, none of the low background noise you never even realized your whole life was built on top of. Somewhere between last night and this morning, you became the only person left on Earth. This isn't a story about surviving zombies or bandits. There's no one left to fight. The real challenge is stranger, and in some ways, much worse. So let's actually walk through it, hour by hour, year by year, using real science about what would happen to the world, and to you, if you were genuinely the last one standing. Quick one before we go further. If this actually happened to you tomorrow, what's the very first thing you think you'd go do? Sit with that answer for a second, because most people's instinct is completely wrong about what actually matters first. Hour 1. Your instinct is probably to panic, or to start looking for other survivors. But the very first thing that matters is far less dramatic. It's the power grid. Coal plants, run entirely by human operators, start losing power within 2 to 4 hours once nobody's left to feed them fuel. Most of them fully shut down within a day. Natural gas plants last a little longer, typically losing pressure somewhere between 1 and 3 days. Nuclear plants are different. They're built with automatic safety systems specifically designed to shut themselves down safely with zero human input. So many of them will quietly power off on their own within days to a few weeks, exactly as engineered rather than melting down the way movies like to suggest. Within about a week, most of the world goes dark, all at once, for the first time in over a century. A handful of hydroelectric dams and renewable installations might keep humming along a little longer, simply because they need less constant human babysitting. But even those eventually fail once a single critical part wears out, with nobody around to replace it. Day 3. The water stops next. Municipal water towers rely on constant pumping to stay pressurized. Once the power fails, that pressure starts dropping immediately. Studies on water infrastructure suggest most systems run completely dry somewhere between 3 and 15 days, partly because 10 to 30% of all treated water leaks out through underground pipes, even under normal conditions. You'll need to find water the old-fashioned way from now on. Rivers, lakes, whatever's left in bottles. Day 10. Food becomes the next quiet problem. Fresh food in every grocery store on the planet spoils within days without refrigeration. Canned goods are far more forgiving. Properly sealed cans can genuinely stay safe for years, sometimes decades, as long as the seal itself never breaks. That means the real food supply of an entire abandoned civilization isn't the produce aisle, it's the canned goods shelf, sitting quietly in millions of empty stores, slowly becoming the most valuable real estate on the planet. Week 2. This is where it stops being about infrastructure and starts being about you. Every account we have of extreme isolation, from solitary confinement studies to researchers stationed in Antarctica through the winter, describes the same progression. Sleep gets strange first, cycles drifting loose from any normal day and night pattern. Mood follows soon after, with researchers consistently documenting rising anxiety, flattened emotion, and difficulty concentrating on even simple tasks. Then comes what researchers who study Antarctic isolation actually call winter over syndrome, a kind of psychological hibernation where people drift into a foggy, detached state just to cope with the total absence of other humans. Given enough time alone, the brain does something even stranger. It starts manufacturing company. One adventurer who survived weeks alone in the Amazon described inventing imaginary friends without even meaning to, just to have someone to talk to. Isolation studies on solitary prisoners report something similar, hearing voices that aren't there, simply because a healthy human brain was never built to run in total silence for this long. None of this is weakness. It's what happens to any normal human mind, without exception, once real human contact disappears completely. Month 1. Nature doesn't wait for you to adjust. In real abandoned places like Pripyat, the city evacuated after the Chernobyl disaster, trees were already growing through apartment floors within a matter of years, not centuries, and entire streets have since disappeared beneath advancing forest. Roads crack from tree roots and frost within months once nobody's around to repair them. Alan Weissman, who wrote an entire book studying exactly this scenario, points out that without street crews, major roads start buckling in a matter of months, and unattended homes typically lose their roofs within 50 to 100 years, sometimes far sooner if a single storm gets in through a broken window first. Animals move back in almost immediately. Around Chernobyl today, wolves, wild boar, and horses roam streets that once belonged entirely to people, thriving specifically because the humans and all their noise and traffic are simply gone. Year 1. Cities don't stay cities for long, without people actively fighting to keep them that way. Subway systems flood almost immediately once the pumps stop running, since most major subway networks sit below the natural water table and rely on constant active pumping just to stay dry, even on an ordinary day. Reservoirs and dams, unmaintained, eventually crack, overflow, or fail outright, slowly turning man-made lakes back into ordinary valleys. Every building you've ever walked past was already losing a quiet, constant battle against water, rust, and plant roots. You just never noticed, because there were always people around to keep patching the cracks. Year 10. By now, most wood-framed houses have partially or fully collapsed. Roads have mostly disappeared under grass and saplings. Steel and iron, exposed to weather with nobody around to paint or treat it, rust through completely, far faster than most people expect. Entire bridges and structures weakening from the inside, without a single visible crack until the day they simply give way. If you're still alive at this point, and that's a genuinely difficult if, you're not living in a city anymore in any meaningful sense. You're living in the wreckage of one, slowly being pulled back into forest. Here's the part that actually matters more than any of that. Humans aren't built to survive being truly alone. Not physically, not psychologically. We evolved in groups for a reason. Shared food, shared defense, shared information passed down before writing ever existed. Every single human's only convenience you rely on, the water in your tap, the electricity in your walls, the food on your shelves, only exists because millions of other people are quietly showing up to work every single day to keep it running. Take away every other person, and you're not just losing company. You're losing the entire invisible support system your whole life was built on top of, without you ever really noticing it was there. A single person, alone, cannot generate electricity, purify water at scale, grow enough food, or maintain a single mile of the infrastructure an ordinary day depends on. It was never one person's job to begin with. It was always millions of people, all at once, and you simply never had to think about that until every single one of them was gone. Quick thing before we wrap up. If you enjoyed thinking through this one, subscribing genuinely helps a lot. So if you ever daydream about being the last person on Earth, some peaceful world with no traffic and no noise and no one telling you what to do, remember what's actually sitting underneath that fantasy. It's not peace. It's the complete and total removal of every system and every person that was ever quietly keeping you alive. The silence isn't empty. It's the sound of every safety net you've ever had, all being pulled away at exactly the same time, one quiet hour after another, until there's simply nothing left holding any of it up but you.